Anand Patwardhan is one of the iconic figure all through our young age and for our generation, all over our young and mid-age, that scenario of the social life. And still he's doing the job, he's taking the responsibility of initiate the new trends of new movement for the social ethics movement and that kind of, especially the neo-social movements. I want to ask Anand about that the particular point, the neo-social aspect. See, when I go through the titles and the content of your films, see, you went through most of the neo-social, almost all the neo-social issues of our country from the mid 70s, from the ethnic issues from the Punjab, and also you traveled a lot and from the migrant laborers issue from Canada to India. That you make it into a global issue in that film, and as the most famous film that Bombay Hamara Shahar, that was the iconic film for our generation when we were at college, and we have seen that film for the first time. We have seen the cinema of reality. Up to that age, we think that cinema is something like for fascination. All of a sudden, the Bombay Hamara Shahar take the awakening siren in our brains. And in Kerala, I think, Anand, you are very much a Kerala kind of a filmmaker from that 80s. Anyway, the history of neo-social movement and your filmmaking career, it parallels together. Can you remember about how you came into that? Do you consciously get into the neo-social issue? I don't think in the beginning we are not that much conscious. Can you elaborate on that?
Frankly, no, not at all consciously. Neither was I conscious then, nor am I very conscious now, because I am quite an instinctive filmmaker. I'm not a theoretician. I don't think about what am I doing and how will I do it too much. I just do it because the situation demands that particular thing. And none of my films were, in a sense, pre-formulated. In a sense, not that I sat and wrote a proposal and sent out to raise money for them. The films happened because I was so upset by some situation or the other that I thought the best way that I could contribute is to document what is going on. So right from the beginning, we can talk about the very first film that I made was in 1971. I was a student. I had a scholarship to America at that time, and I was in my university in Boston when the East Pakistan refugees came into India. Thousands, millions of refugees came across the border because they were being tortured and killed in what was then East Pakistan. And in my university, we tried to do some fundraising for the refugees by asking people not to eat for one day and give the money that they saved by not eating to send back to the refugee camps. And at that time, because there was a theatre arts department, I was not studying cinema, I was studying English literature. I had gone to study, I had done already one BA in English literature and I was doing sociology. But I borrowed equipment from the theatre arts department and I made a short film about whether people were eating that day or not. And then I intercut the photographs of the refugees who had arrived with the fact that people were saying, some people did the fast, but many people were giving excuses about why they had to eat that day. So I intercut these two things. So that was my first film. But I never showed it because at that time when I came back to India, I showed it only, I think I showed it once in FTI to students and things like that. But it was, then again I didn't do anything with film. And then I was working for a few years in a village project in Madhya Pradesh, uh, which was very slow moving. I was there for 2 years, but the pace of change was very slow. So I wanted to find something more dynamic. And by that time, the Bihar movement had begun. Anti-corruption movement, which started in Gujarat, then went to Bihar. And I went there as an observer, but the people in the movement wanted to, on a particular day, they wanted me to take photographs because they expected police violence at a demonstration. So I came to Delhi, borrowed some film equipment, not really film equipment, but very amateur film equipment, Super 8 and high. Super 8 and 8 millimeter. We filmed that day's protests, and then that footage was projected on a screen and filmed again with a 16 millimeter camera to enlarge it. So then that became the first film called Waves of Revolution.
Yeah.
The next film was made after emergency ended, called Prisoners of Conscience, about the political prisoners during emergency.
Yeah.
And then after that, I made Bombay City, which you talked about.
Before that, you went to Canada and.
No, in Canada, I made a film. Yeah, I went to finish my MA, and I made a film on the farm workers, farm labor in Canada, who are of Indian origin. And then after coming back to India, I made Bombay City, because I had been in America for a few years, and it was a shock to me coming back to see the homeless people their homes were being demolished. Whatever they had was being demolished, because Bombay, this is early 1980s, and the whole idea then it was the beginning of the liberalization era. And they wanted to make Bombay attractive for the investors. So they didn't want to see slums anywhere. So the people on the street, everybody was being demolished. So that's when I made Bombay City. And after that, for the next three films, which were not actually not thought of as three films, but it was me trying to document the rise of fundamentalism, religious violence. And the first film was about Punjab during the Khalistan movement. It was there was a group taking the ideas of Bhagat Singh from village to village, because Bhagat Singh had written Why I Am an Atheist, and he had also written against communal violence. So using that as a kind of backbone for the structure, we were following this group of left revolutionaries who were talking about communal harmony, going village to village in Punjab. And that was in Unna Mitrandi Yaar Pyari, which is In Memory of Friends. And then the next film was Ram Ke Naam, In the Name of God, because again, this is the era where religious upsurge was going on. Meaning religion was being used for political reasons. And the third film in the same line was Father, Son and Holy War, because while I was filming the other things, I also went to Rajasthan after Roop Kanwar was burnt alive on her husband's funeral pyre, Sati. So, and Sati was being glorified. So these three films became a kind of a trilogy, which I didn't think of it as a trilogy to start with, but it became a trilogy because all three are about communalism, but all three look at it from a different lens. The first film is more about class, because Bhagat Singh was a Marxist who talked about class struggle would be the antidote to religious violence. And the second film, by that time when I went to UP and followed the Rath Yatra of Advani, then I realized that just talking about class was not enough, because there was a huge upsurge of people following this Rath Yatra for the demolition of Babri Masjid. But I met the priest of the Ram temple, Pujari Lal Das, and that gave me an idea of a kind of a liberation theology, because Lal Das, being a Hindu priest, was against religious violence. He was saying there's no need to demolish this place, because we are worshipping here Muslims are worshipping in the compound. Why should you disturb this situation?
Yeah.
And he also pointed out that those who are doing it, Vishwa Hindu Parishad and others, they have never come to pray here even once in Ram Temple, what they call Ram Temple. Nobody bothered to pray, they just want to use it for political gain. Laldas, as you know, was killed about 2 years after the film was made. Film was completed in 91. And 92, end of 92, there was a demolition. What I had filmed was the first time the Babri Masjid was attacked. But they didn't get demolished that day. The second time they demolished it, and after they demolished it, within less than a year, they killed the priest. And then after that, I made several films which were, in a sense, you can call them, maybe you can call them environmental films, because again, we were not thinking of it like that. We started with Simantini is here, with whom I made Narmada Diary. And Narmada Diary is looking at the Narmada Dam. So in a sense, you can call it an environmental film, but it's also a film about the displaced, the people who are being displaced. Narmada Diary, then I made a film called Fishing in the Sea of Greed, about the fisher people, with Father Thomas Kocheri and the Fish Workers Union of those days. And then made War and Peace, which is also, you can call it kind of environmental, because it's anti-nuclear film, but anti-nuclear, not only anti-nuclear weapons, but also anti-nuclear energy. Because in fact, if you have a nuclear energy plants, then you can make weapons out of the same material. And so on. So each of these films were triggered by actual incidents. For instance, I was making War and Peace in 1998 after the nuclear test. But in 1997, in Ramabai colony, which is in Bombay, Ghatkopar, 10 Dalits were killed by the police. And the person that I had filmed with in Bombay city, Vilas Gogre, who sang the song that runs throughout the film. So he was killed, and so I wanted to know why he was killed, and I started following that story, and that took 14 years to complete, a film called Jai Bhim Comrade. But basically nothing was theoretically thought about. It was always some incident in real life that triggered it.
Actually, when we showed Bombay Hamara Shahar, it was it's such a great success. It was not screened by a projector. We put a TV on a desk-like thing on the veranda, and I saw Raj ke bhai, ek chota Raj ke bhai. These lines reverberated in all our minds. And this is about the Chota Raj. This is about this kind of an administration, this kind of a dispensation with total corruption, total disregard for values, total disregard for justice, total disregard for truth. It is against secularism and against democracy. And it is a consistent kind of exposing these things, these social evils that Anand has been doing throughout his films. His very first film to the last film. So in the name of God, Ram K. Nam, ഒരുപക്ഷെ അത് 991 ദൂരദർശൻ കാണിക്കാൻ അനുവദിച്ചിരുന്നെങ്കിൽ ബാബറി മസ്ജിദ് തകർക്കപ്പെടില്ലായിരുന്നു. അങ്ങനെ അത്രയധികം നാട്ടിൽ മുഴുവൻ അവയർനെസ് ഉണ്ടാക്കാനുള്ള, എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഹിന്ദുത്വത്തിന്റെ പണിപ്പുരയിൽ ഈ വംശവിദ്വേഷം വളർന്നു വരുന്നത്, എങ്ങനെയാണ് അഡ്വാനി രഥയാത്രയായിട്ട് പോകുന്നത്, എങ്ങനെയാണ് കല്ലും കൊണ്ട് ശിലാന്യാസത്തിന് വേണ്ടി സകല വില്ലേജുകളിൽ നിന്നും അയോധ്യയിലേക്ക് ആളുകളെ പറഞ്ഞു വിട്ടത്. How they were all incited for this kind of mindless violence. How the Hindutva project was being shaped and in a sophisticated way. All the film shows everything. The Pujari is very clear about his statement. But in spite of all this happened because of the intervention of Doordarshan which delayed its screening. if they had screened it in 1991, perhaps Babari Masjid would not have been demolished in 1992 because there would have been so much of public awareness and pressure against this kind of madness.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. In those days, what was being shown on Doordarshan? It was Ramayana. So actually Ramayana, and this is done under Congress government, and later on there was United Front government, all different governments. They're not BJP government, they're so-called secular governments, different kinds. But none of them, they all fought against Ram Ke Naam being shown on TV because they said this will incite violence between Hindus and Muslims. But they were projecting Ramayana, not that I have anything against Ramayana. Ramayana is a beautiful story like Mahabharata. It's an epic, and we should have our cultural right to celebrate our own culture, whatever it might be. But they were ensuring that actually the ground for what BJP did was being prepared by the secular forces. They did not put scientific thought in the minds of people, they put only religious thoughts and fake religious thoughts. They're not even real religious thoughts in the sense that this was manufactured. There were, even in Ram Ke Naam, you see how they did the propaganda. They had on in December 1949, that some people broke into the Babri Masjid and put idols there. And we were lucky because when we went to Ayodhya, the guy who put the idols himself, he spoke to us that he only did it. This was a miracle. But they made a video saying by miracle Ram appeared in the mosque.
Yeah.
And that video was circulated to lakhs of people. So that is how, even today, it's exactly the same thing is happening. We're getting fake news and fake mythology, fake religion, which is being spread in a very systematic way.
And also that film, I see, Ram Ke Naam is finished, and after finishing the film, the masjid is demolished. Huh?
Yeah.
Maybe you see, I exactly I don't remember. I think it is Ernest Fischer, the Frankfurt critic, who wrote that the war is prefaced by Kafka, writing that kind of an argument from the neo-Marxist also. Sometimes the art and the imagination can preface some ill omens. It's not metaphysical. The environment will create like that. See, there was a poet a Nigerian poet who wrote 4 poems about the political future of Nigeria, and he put it in his pocket while he was fighting in the Biafran war. He was a military officer in the Biafran war. He's compelled to be there. He died. He shot dead, and from his shots, in the pocket of the shots, they got that 4 pieces of poems. That poems became the perfect prediction of the future also. What happened in the Nigerian politics is written in the poems. So sometimes this kind of social environment put a creative imagination into the brains of these creative people to imagine the worst, the ill omen. But we can hope that it will not be like in future. And also see that I read somewhere about that film, that Holy Wars film, that it is not about the evoking the memory of the past, but it is for the future. I think we will be hopeful that for the future it will be not that much dark. We are always speaking about darkness for the light of the future. I think so. I'm not that much confident. I'm also a little bit darkened kind of a person to discuss with you. And I remember the last film also. It is very, very pleasant, but it is dark also. That we cannot talk about that film before it's screening. After the screening, there's a discussion. So I want to know about another aspect, about equipments. Even when I mentioned about the watching of that film in Kerala, all over the Kerala, the Bombay. Those days, the people like us who are interested in filmmaking were embarrassed. How can this possible to get this kind of visuals? in the midst of the crowd, in the midst of the turmoils, how can we shoot? Because we know only that we can put lights and so many equipments to shoot, big cameras only. We have seen the camera from the film development corporate, big cameras. So it was a wonder for us. And someone told me those days, well, Anand have that much brilliant new equipments with him. Not the video. Video is not there. Only in film. Yeah. See, the films shot in the optical film was the first part of Anand's career, I think. How you started from the 8 mm and the very amateur kind of camera you told me, and after 2-3 films you have the equipments, real equipments. Will you remember that moment?
Yeah, so we are talking about 1970s.
Yeah.
There was no, I mean, certainly people like me could not take 35mm camera.
Yeah.
There was no video. It was celluloid. And the only thing we could have access to was 16mm. In the beginning, I didn't have access to 16mm also. I had 8mm. And then we made it 16 by artificial means. And I always borrowed equipment. I didn't have my own equipment. We'd borrow equipment. We'd borrow a camera person. If you look at the early film Prisoners of Conscience, there are 7 or 8 camera people because everybody shot little bit. And only with even Time to Rise, I did a little bit of shooting myself, but it was shot by a friend of mine in Canada, who was a camera person, Martin Duckworth. Bombay City, I shot much more. But Bombay City also, I had Ranjan Palit, I had Parvez Meherwanji, so we had 3 people, and some shots were shot by other people also. So it was a slow process, and eventually I learned how to shoot better. It was only by trial and error. I kept making mistakes and improving slightly. And so later I started shooting more. And then in the second half of my filmmaking career, I guess, towards the second half, when we had already switched, by the way, Father, Son and Holy War was the last film that I shot on celluloid. After that, when we did Narvada Diary, it was on high 8. And
what's it, high 8?
High 8. And high 8 is like a low bacha version of...
I know that. Sharad have that.
Yeah, high 8. And even Fishing in the Sea of Greed was high 8. And then Mini DV came. And Mini DV made a revolution because Mini DV quality was much better. And it was digital, so we could, not have much loss when you edit. So then, almost till the last film I made was before the film you are going to see today. The last film was shot on Mini DV. But again with very old equipment, never the latest equipment. So even HD camera, film that could. Camera that could shoot on HD I used in Reason. But even Jaiveem Comrade, it was not that. It was a Mini DV with ordinary camera. And 4K camera I still have not used. So all this, in a sense, technically I've always been backward. Because of the fact that I never actually raised money to make the films. We were putting my own money or friends' money and carrying on in some way or the other. And trying to live off the sales of the films rather than raising the money to make the film.
I always thought that you are advanced than all of the Indian documentary filmmakers. See, the thing, do you know that there is a port is inaugurated in Kerala? There's a big port. And you did a film on the fisher folk. How the traditional the fish workers are marginalized by the industrial fishing. And I think there are so many other films are also in Kerala also. But nowadays the fishing itself is in correct.
Yeah.
But we cannot deny fully the developments also. Not only because of the common man logic of developmentalism, otherwise also the urbanization, it is a pressure on the people to build port and things like that. Anyway, I think we have to make another film on the. See, I'm very much afraid of the whole southern coast will be affected by this. It was a very eco-sensitive area, William. There are so many studies. I think it is almost like Western Ghats. You are attacking Western Ghats, similar to. And I think the filmmaker like you should inquire on what is the basic inquiries you have to do. You should take an initiative after the port is celebrated. Now it is the celebration is going on. But it is a very important thing during the age of climate change. As in my observation, I don't think you have to enter into that sensitive issue of developmentalism and the port issue and things like that. Anyway, and another thing I want to, the film Reason and War and Peace, all these films, the last films are little bit global, the universal than the issue-based films in the earlier days. And also, the future is not that much hopeful in that films also. Are you still hopeful for a new society, for the coming the globe, the earth for the next generation? Is it good for them, for the future, our children, what we are going to leave them before our demise? I think after independence, the generation after independence, yourself and mine, I'm so younger than you, but still we born from a very good ancestral home, and we live like anything, and we don't have that much responsibilities to ourselves. But we enjoyed everything. But we are going to take over the world. It's more worst world, I think so. I'm sorry to speak like that. What is your opinion?
Even without its answering, I will point you one statement that is made 2 years in the interview. The things are all darker, but we have a hope that there will be days better than these dark days. Something like that he said in such an interview. He's always this optimism in spite of all the odds against it. It is his belief that there is light at the end of the tunnel that makes his films more appealing than mere statements or factual depicting of documentary reality.
So it's hard to know whether, to us right now it feels like things have never been so bad. In India especially. But not just in India, you look at what's happening in Palestine. The kind of genocide that the world is watching and tolerating, not stopping. They all talk about Holocaust in Germany, and every film in Hollywood is made about Holocaust in Germany. And Netflix, you can see every film is about 6 million Jews were massacred, and I'm glad that those films were made, and I'm glad that Holocaust is remembered. But there is a Holocaust going on right now, and nobody is paying any attention, especially of course in America they are going on the offensive, the other way around. Everybody is being called anti-Semitic if they raise the issue of genocide. In India, it is off the page. It's like you can't find reference to what is happening, even though it's happening as we speak. All you have to do is to watch Al Jazeera for a few minutes, and you'll see what is happening. Every day there are people being slaughtered. So in many ways it looks like the darkest moment. Perhaps it would have looked like that to the people in the concentration camps in Germany in those days. If you talk to them, you talk to the people in Gaza, how will it be any different? And yet, I feel as a filmmaker, I've always thought that I don't have a right to depress people with my films. I didn't make the film just to make people cry and feel bad. But because I make documentary films and not fiction, I can't tell lies also. So I have to show the reality. I have to talk about what is happening now. But I have always looked for some silver lining, always looked for some act of resistance which I could focus on, which would show people that there are different ways in which people survive and fight. So that has not changed. I'm always looking for something positive, even in the darkness. But honestly, I can't be optimistic about what is happening now. All, as you say, all we can hope for is that things are cyclical. Things do not go in the same direction forever. And if you look at fascism, Hitler's fascism lasted not more than 20 years, from beginning to end. Are trying to be, I'm not saying they are fascists right now, but they're on the path towards fascism. How long will it be before people wake up? I'm not sure, but I think it will not last forever either. At least I'm hopeful that in India people don't. People disagree with each other, even good friends disagree with each other all the time. So, how can a country like India, people like Indians are, tolerate a one party, one man leadership forever? I don't think that will happen. The danger is the kind of poison that they're spreading is very, very deep rooted. We don't even see it. You and I don't necessarily see it. You actually have to find that there are many people who are documenting, because in small ways this hatred is being spread very deeply now, which was not true even when I made Ram Ke Naam. I could go to Ayodhya and I could find that neighbors were living, Hindus and Muslims were living side by side, and they said it's the outsiders who are causing trouble. We don't have any trouble with each other. Today that situation is slowly changing because the poison is going deeper and deeper. But I think, I hope that will change at some point.
You went through an era of history, and you also made, I think you made history also, and still you are making history. And one last comment about Pakistan. In the last film, not in the Worldistan, in the other film, War and Peace. In War and Peace, you visualize the fraternity of India and Pakistan, the people in India and Pakistan. And nowadays, the venomous propaganda is going on. So I think that should be, we should think about undivided South Asia or undivided India in another way, a holistic India. I hope the attempt from the great filmmaker Anand Patwardhan to for the symmetry and the synchronization of the whole world and the nature, it will in future it will help us to think and dream for the synchronized world. So I think we can talk. You can discuss with the whole audience after Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam. And I will tell you, Vasudhaiva, you don't miss that film. It's a wonderful film. And also, another Anand Patwardhan is there in that film. Thank you.